Good evening. Thank you, Patience. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending, coming for this meeting. It is very important for us as we head towards elections. And I wanted us to start off the meeting with a word of prayer. Naomi, if you can hear me, would you kindly lead us in a word of prayer? Naomi?
Yes, Paula, for that. Let's believe as we pray. God, thank you for the moment. Thank you for the opportunity that you have entrusted unto us to have the webinar. We ask that you may intervene in whatever we are going to deliberate. To our speakers, give them wisdom. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Now, I would like to encourage us to post in the chat our expectations. Each one of us has understood the title of the webinar differently. We want to know how to vote for the best candidate in the coming general elections. If you could just post your expectations on the website, on the chat, that would be a good beginning. Now, I would like us to go straight into our discussion because we are professionals and we had promised we'll start at exactly 5. And we know you're busy people and you have things that you would like to do. We appreciate you have spared the time to be with us. I will call upon Patience, for those of you who are not members of KCPF, to give us a small background of who KCPF is before we proceed. Patience?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Wahome, for the opportunity to talk about KCPF, and once again welcome all of you who have joined us. So KCPF stands for Kenya Christian Professionals Forum, and Kenya Christian Professionals Forum basically brings together Christian professionals from all denominations. We are ecumenical, and to do so we have partnership with Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, NCCK, which is the National Council of Churches of Kenya, and EAK, the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. So we bring together Christian professionals from all these major denominations, and we bring them together so that we can contend for biblical values in our society. And these biblical values are life, that is, we contend for the dignity of human life, the dignity of family, or rather we contend for the promotion and protection of the family, religion, good governance, as well as values-based education. So this is basically who Kenya Christian Professionals Forum is. And our mandate is that we provide professional support to the church, and we help church leaders to articulate their position on issues of religion, life, family, education, and governance. And so for the last 12 years, we have been influencing and participating in the in the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya, and our focus has been on laws and policies revolving around the issues of life, family, religion, and governance. So far, we have around 1,000 Christian professionals whom we work together with, who are in our circles. And we'd like to invite all of us who are here, who are not members of Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. You're invited. Please come and join us so that we can continue to contend for Christian values in our nation. Thank you so much, Dr. Wahome, and welcome to all of us.
Thank you very much, Patience. Now we get the show on the road. My name is Wahome Ngare. I am a medical doctor. I'm a gynecologist, and I am I'm the immediate former convener of the Life Committee. I now sit on the board of KCPF. And today's topic of discussion is how to vote for the best candidate in the general elections. Now, in an election, we can only choose those who are on the ballot. Unfortunately, that is the truth. We can only choose those who are on the ballot. So if you are out there and you're a very good candidate, it is unfortunate that we can't vote for you, even if you could make the best president for this country, because you're not on the ballot. Now, previously, in previous elections, we have been voting for people based on our tribes, based on eloquence, based on handouts, based on promises we have been given by leaders, based on political parties, and we have always gotten the same results. We change the monkey, the forest is the same, and we end up with, sometimes we sweep out the whole of the up to 80–90% of the MPs. But every time they come in, they're just different faces, but with the same attitude. And it is time that we did something differently. And we feel as KCPF that it is important for us to understand clearly what sovereignty means, what democracy means, and thereafter be able to use an objective tool to pick the best possible candidate of those who are on the ballot. Now, we'll be doing some practical work during this webinar, and I would encourage each one of you to look for a piece of paper and a pen. Keep it handy. There is a point at which will come that will be able to ask you to do some little work as a practical experience of what we are talking about. So keep a piece of paper, a plain piece of paper and a pen near you for a practical lesson within the webinar. Now, I would like to introduce the panelists, and I would like to just give you their names and how we are related with them as KCPF, and then I will invite each one of them to say a word. Now, our first panelist is Tim Kiruhi. Tim is the current Vice Chancellor of the International Leadership University. He is also a member of KCPF. And he is also a member of ELNET, the Ethical Leadership Network, and you'll get to understand how this relates to the discussion we are having today. And our second panelist is Gerald Mwangi Olewoltafan. Gerald Mwangi is currently the convener of the Governance Committee of KCPF, and he's also a member of ELNET. So I will invite Dr. Tim Kirui to introduce himself further, and then we'll go to Gerald immediately after. Please, Dr. Kirui.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wahome Ngare. It's a joy to be here, and good evening to all the participants. I'm looking forward to a good discussion together. I'll just say that maybe the other things I mentioned about myself is that I'm married. I'm privileged to be married to one, Mary Mwangi. And together we have two daughters who are grown and working. Actually, one of them is just about to get married, or in the process of getting married right now. maybe just a little bit about, I've been privileged to be in various leadership roles and also to have a passion for good governance as well as ethical leadership. And I hope that tonight as we interact, we'll be able to share a bit more about that. And also privileged to be in the current role as Vice Chancellor at the International Leadership University, which is also a servant to the church like KCPF, to raise leaders of integrity whom we badly need in this nation. And we do that through 3 schools in leadership and governance, theology and Christian ministry, and counseling, psychology as another area, as well as children's, programming children's ministry. Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to Gerald.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Gerald?
I would also want to give just a short introduction about myself. Yes, indeed, I am married to one wonderful lady called Phyllis Njoki, and also delighted to be a father of 4 wonderful children. I have 2 great boys and 2 lovely girls. One is already in the process of marriage, and the other one is still in school. And therefore, I'm also privileged to be a grandfather at that point. Besides that, as you've been told, I'm the co-convener of the Governance and Leadership Committee within KCPF. But indeed, one of my greatest passion is leadership from a very early age, since childhood. And a part of it comes through community work, volunteerism, and the other is obviously a deliberate process towards good governance and leadership. So I've been a member of ELNET mentorship group. I'm also a board member of what we call Future First Kenya, which looks at enhancing and motivating alumni in schools so that people can go back to their former schools and be of assistance to those schools, and especially helping them to develop and grow. And then I've also had a great interest in sports. So at one time I was privileged to lead a very rare sport in this country, which is called bodybuilding, the Kenya Bodybuilding Federation. And indeed, currently we are also involved in what you call the residence estate leadership, which is very relevant to today's topic because it is at the community that you start preparing for the leaders that we want to choose and select come the 9th of August. Besides that, of course, I'm also involved in the men's ministry in something called Men of Purpose. And all these things are working together towards what we call good family, a good church, and also good society. So thank you very much, Dr. Ngare, for hosting us today. And we look forward to making this exciting, interactive, and very engaging. Asante.
Thank you very much to our panelists. And there is a slide I'm going to share with you, privileged to have this opportunity from the Governance Committee of KCPF. And the question is, what is ailing democracy? And is part of the reason we are here. We say we are a democratic country, but there is a problem with our democracy. Now, a democratic government is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And that is what we were always taught. That is what has always been the thing. But how are the people supposed to be organized? They're supposed to be organized right from the family level. It is the family that is a primary unit of society, and therefore that must be where we organize our democratic government from. It is not supposed to be from any other point other than the family unit. Now, if the government is to be of the people, then the by the people must engage. The people must engage by electing the most morally upright amongst them into all leadership positions. So the people must engage to make sure they elect the most morally upright people for the government to be of the people. And for the government to be for the people, it is again very important that the people engage. And they must engage by public participation in budgeting, in policy, in law, and also in service delivery and monitoring and evaluation of the government. So what has been ailing democracy, and especially in Kenya, is that by the people is lacking. There is no proper engagement of the people. Now, it is important for us to go back to our constitution and remember that sovereignty of this country, the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. And it is something that we have to grow into, because prior to 2010, we were so used to the government lording it over us, telling us exactly what to do and what we must do, that we have been disempowered for so long that we have forgotten that we are actually the sovereign. From 2010, the political leaders are supposed to be our servants, but we have not been able to shed off the old attitude. So it is very important that we empower the people to be truly sovereign through civic education. And this is one of those elements that we are hoping would take us to that level. So I'll stop sharing that slide and go to our panelists and ask the first question. Should Christians engage in politics, or is politics a dirty game? Maybe we could start with you, Dr. Tim.
Thank you, Dr. Wahome. That's an important question. And I think it's a question which is important because historically, we have thought, and for a long time, maybe it was one of the overkills of maybe the revival movement, I don't know. There was a sense of separating from the world, which was good in a spiritual sense, but I think we ended up separating from the day-to-day issues that affect all of us. So Christianity is engaged, of course, for that very reason that, politics is a dirty game. And as a result of that, other people took up that place. I think now we are trying to reclaim our place, which is a good news. I mean, personally, since the first weekend of May, I've been in different churches invited just to speak on this topic. So I appreciate the sense of revival and urgency of the church to reclaim the space. But of course, we must admit that some time has been lost. Why is it important? Just to go back to the word sovereignty. There is God's sovereignty on one hand, but there is also man's responsibility on the other. And I think it's important that we look at both man's responsibility and God's sovereignty, because, in a sense, God is sovereign. God will determine and appoint the leader that will take us after August the 9th. But there is man's responsibility. And I think what we are here about tonight is to talk about our human responsibility. What is it that we need to do so that we can participate with God in that process? And it's similar to many other things that we do in prayer. God, is sovereign, but at the same time allows us to pray and beseech him for his will to come on earth. So there is our place, and I think we'll be talking a bit more about this, including some scriptures that can strengthen this position. Thank you, our moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gerald, same question. Should Christians engage in politics, or is politics a dirty game?
Thank you, Dr. for that wonderful question. It's a question that we grapple with daily as Christians, and it's a challenge that is beset before every Christian and in every Christian home. Not only also with Christian homes, but even non-Christians do wonder whether Christians have an opportunity to be part of government, to influence government, and even to elect government. My answer to that straight away is yes, Christians should be and must make a deliberate intention to be part of government and to be in government. Why do I say that? One of the greatest countries in the world is founded on Christian basis, that is America. If you look at their dollar note, one of the greatest signs of the foundations of that nation is in God we trust. If you look at England itself, the Church of England and the relationship between that particular institution and the country is that indeed they look at Christians being the foundation of that wonderful nation. Now, when you look at Kenya itself, it is not by coincidence that our national anthem starts with, "O God of all creation." This is a very foundation stating very early to whoever cares to listen and to our neighbors and into our continent that indeed Kenya believes that God is at the center of every administration and in every aspect of our life. Now, when you look at that and you look at our 2010 Constitution, again, it reminds us, we the people, and it goes further to say, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation. What a better place can we have in order to be motivated to remember that in everything we do in this country, it is to serve God, to know Him and to love Him, and then to serve His people. So I go back and say with a very high resounding, yes, Christians must engage in politics because politics is about allocation of resources and about how those resources are shared amongst its people. And indeed, we are people of God's image. Finally, I would also want to take us somewhere into the wonderful book that is there, that even without the Constitution of Kenya, indeed, any Christian knows that even in the Old Testament, we are reminded of the 10 Commandments, in which by themselves would stand test of leading a nation in the right way. And therefore, when we also go to Isaiah 33:22, we are reminded about the Lord being our judge, and we are reminded about the lawgiver, and we are reminded about the king. So yes, Christians must engage in politics. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, that is a very good point at which to start. Now, we know there are Christians who have gone into politics previously, without mentioning names, but they have not been very effective. So again, to the panelists, why have those Christians who have engaged in politics in the past failed to have an impact? Maybe we could start with you, Dr. Tim.
Thank you. That's a good observation, and I think there is truth to that general statement. And the main reason is that the environment as is regarding our politics does not lend itself to, largely speaking, think about the fact that even to get into the electoral positions right now, one needs lots of money. Unfortunately, it's the case. Very, very few people go in. A few do without money, but mostly it's really a question of just people buying the position. And that already begins to compromise the integrity of those who participate. And then of course, this is even at the party position, even just to join a party list, to be nominated and so on. So there are so many odds, even before you get into the ballot. And then of course, afterwards. The other one is our own electorate. We as Kenyans, unfortunately, also want to be bribed. I just had someone a few days ago. Unfortunately, it was at an event and I was passing, didn't have time to engage them. But the person was saying, for me, whoever I'll give my vote is whoever, gives me the most. Basically, the person wants to be bought out, so to speak, to be able to give their vote, or to give their vote. So that's the value they are going to use. Who pays, the highest amount and so on, is going to be the person they elect. So the electorate as well, kind of corrupts. And many people really, even in the course of the 5-year term, want the politician to bribe them. To pay their way, to give them money or other favors. So already these are things that begin to compromise and so on. But I think the other one is, of course, the culture, the subculture of our politics, because largely speaking, like I said earlier, we allowed the wrong people with the wrong values to enter this space largely. So that, of course, is a dominant culture. And many people, to kind of fit in and so on, they end up now changing, who they are really to be able to fit in. So I think several factors. And I think this is why we must get involved, in a sense, to sanitize this place, to make it easier for good people to be able to come in, because no change will come unless this begins to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Gerald, over to you. Why do you think those Christians who have engaged in politics in the past have failed to have an impact?
Thank you, Dr. Hari. I want to pick exactly from where Dr. Tim has ended, and that is a fundamental point to ponder on. The fact that we have recreated a culture, moved from a culture of competence to a culture of fun and a culture of popularity. And that is how we make our choices of our leaders. We moved away from competence and made it an exception if you're competent. Whereas it ought to be that the competent leader who has highest integrity in leadership, and some of our Christian leaders exhibit the highest value of integrity. But unfortunately, the culture that was created and pulled the rug under the Christian leadership was that of popularity, that of using money, that of using vulgar language, that of creating a point of leadership as if it's entertainment. So that is one of the mistakes that we have made. And that is the reason why our leaders who emanate from the Christian field will not survive in that toxic environment. Number two is that we operate in silos. Even as Christians, we will sometimes wear the jacket of our Christianity when it comes to the Sunday, and when it comes to the Monday to Friday, and when we are bombarded with the negative influence of the poor politics, then we forget that we are meant to be the salt and the light within that particular area. And it has been done deliberately to cower the Christian person away from the political arena, because the politicians who have found out the truth behind competence-based leadership would not survive. And they know that our fellow Christians, our brethren, have the capacity, have the ability, but the one thing that lacks from us is the fact that we have been lied to, and we have been made now to buy into the popularity element of choosing a leader. The third one is an error in not getting ourselves organized in order for us to make sure that we do set out our candidates and be able to help them to move to the forefront, and therefore give them confidence enough that they know that they will be having individuals standing with them in order for them to make it through the rough terrain of politics. And the very last one I would want to say is a lack of understanding within the Christian fraternity of the role of leadership, especially at the national level and in engaging in politics. We have left politics to the politician, and unfortunately, the politician then has used that same politics to organize us. Instead of us organizing the politicians, them coming to us and seeking guidance and advice. I submit that that's are some of the issues that have held us back. And those are some of the issues that unfortunately has seen some wonderful names who we believe in, who we know have the capacity, fail to make it within the political arena. Over to you, Dr. Ray.
Wow, thank you very, very much. Now we'll go into the actual thing that we wanted to share with the people from the governance committee of KCPF. The BVIP tool, it's a national tool, is being referred to as the BVIP tool. And in Kiswahili, we are using the term kuwa muungwana. We all remember Leonard Mambo Kotela, those of us who are my age, and Je Weni Muungwana, something to call us back. So BVIP, be honorable, kuwa muungwana. And this tool that is on your screen is the tool that we'll be discussing today. And The tool was developed originally by Elnet 2012 in the run-up to the 2013 elections. And the church was grappling with the same question of how do we choose leaders of good quality for this country. Unfortunately, it was not popularized around that time. And when the governance committee of KCPF was trying to explain the same question, we met up with Dr. Tim, and he told us that there is a tool that had already been developed. Now, KCPF took up the tool and developed it, but as a national tool, a tool that can be used by the whole country regardless of religion. Now, Tim, since you were involved with the original work by Elnet, would you kindly explain to our listeners and viewers each value and why we must look out for more than just integrity?
Thank you very much. I'm always delighted to be able to do this. But first, to acknowledge, yes, in the Elnet governance group took a lead, but we worked with others. I think I saw even in this forum, John Mwangi, then working with World Vision, was part of this process and really supported it strongly. Some members of KCPF and other bodies who were quite a group of just like-minded organizations that were looking at how we could be able to make a difference in this space by supporting the church because of the same angst and struggle that we have. How can Kenya be said to be 80% Christian, but really the kind of people we elect, of course, don't reflect the kind of values that, of course, we believe that they should be. And until we kind of sort that out as a society, I believe we'll continue to struggle, with this whole question of not being able to move as far as we to go as far as we ought. I mean, the countries that we should be comparing with, that at independence, of course, we got independence about the same time as Singapore, South Korea, and there was a lot more hope, even by the British, who are our colonial masters. They actually thought Kenya had a much better chance, in their own, kind of notes as they gave independence to the two countries, say, comparing Kenya and Singapore. Of course, 59 years later, we are still, a third world nation struggling with really the same issues of illiteracy, poverty, and disease. Whereas, Singapore, our peer, is a first world nation. This, I believe, is what good leadership, determines. So with the process and involved talking to many people, first of all, the list was a very long list. I think several pages of various values that people thought were important in choosing a leader. Then we tried to narrow them down. And ultimately, again, through the support of both World Vision and also NCCK, I believe that the host of the meeting, we were able to invite, I believe that it was about 86 church bishops who gathered at Jumuiya in Lemuru, drawn from across the, just the spectrum of the church. So there were, bishops from the Evangelical Alliance, those from the Pentecostal Evangelical churches, from the mainline churches, Protestant churches, and also from the Catholic Church. And they were all there together. So they gave us their support and guidance, and we were able to narrow it down to 5 values. Why 5? Just wanted a small number that you can remember, on your fingertips. Anything longer than that, we tend to forget. So be VIP, like it says, live an honorable life, make your country and yourself honorable, or amakuwa mungwana, like Dr. Ahome said. So the first one, quickly now to the values, we wanted to talk about. The first one is, of course, the measure of character. We knew that everything stands and falls on character. Now, we would have said integrity is a common word that we use, but we had a concern that the word integrity is not well understood, but also is not easy to translate into the mother tongue. Many of us, of course, think firstly in our mother tongue, and then secondly, or thirdly in Kiswahili, maybe then in English. But we also wanted to be able to translate this too, so that if you are preaching in your home church in the village, or telling people, guiding people there in your community, you can be able to translate this. So blamelessness is a very powerful concept. It's drawn from the Bible in 1 Timothy chapter 3, and talks about how an elder, in a religion, in a church context or church community, or a community of faith, should be blameless in character. But of course, how much more those who aspire for national leadership. And when you think about the amount of money or power or risk that an elder has or can cause, it's nowhere comparable to what a governor and a member of parliament, a president could do. So I don't believe that we should make it any less. So anyway, so the blamelessness here is blameless in character and God-fearing. Why is that important? And you see aspects of that again in our national anthem that look at aspects of character in our national values, in our Vision 2030, in the preamble to the Constitution. So you can see how that cuts across, and this particular page, of course, draws that out. Why is that important? Because networks, gifting, popularity can thrust you into leadership, but only character will keep you there. And especially doing the right things, of course, for the populace, for the citizens. So blamelessness, because you'll definitely be exposed to money, to power, to privilege, and only character, will be able to help moderate those things so that they don't destroy you as a leader and that you're able to serve the people. So blamelessness is a measure of character, blameless in character and God-fearing. But secondly, maybe very briefly, why is God-fearing important? Because again, those who go into political office, especially the higher levels, the president, in a sense, enjoys a level of immunity. What will keep a president from excesses? Only if he's aware that he's accountable to someone higher than him or her, to God. So that's why we need a God-fearing. But also, the challenges of Kenya are so huge. We need godly wisdom. We need divine discernment and so on. Does the leader draw? That character has a way of also dependence, humility, and a drawing from God's resources to lead our nation. So blamelessness in character and God-fearing. Then secondly, an empowering leader. Now, many of us will be familiar with the fact that in politics, it's a game usually of elimination. And many political leaders are fairly insecure. They don't want to see another person come around who may threaten them, who may take their place, maybe in the next election. They are always scanning the environment. Any of you who have tried to do something in your home area or community know that quickly they get to know, and they usually want to cut off that project. I've had that experience personally. So, but we believe that a good leader who will help change this nation cannot do it alone. No one leader, no matter how good, God has chosen somehow to vest the giftings in many of us. So empowering leader brings in many people with their various giftings. And the good leader allows them to thrive, to serve others. But also the leader themselves, and is a servant leader, therefore, to serve the first among equals, to serve these other leaders so that in a sense, they are able to serve the wider populace. We need a team of leaders. I think although that was not a perfect example, now that he's late, maybe we can use the example of the late Mwai Kibaki. He had, his weaknesses, of course, like all the others. But I think one of the beautiful things was the kind of quality of leaders that NAC government gave us. I remember having been out of the country, I came in and just listening to Professor Anyang', Dr. Mukisa Kitui, and others like that. You could tell these were empowered leaders who had the capacity to help make a big difference. It wasn't perfect, of course, but we know that that could maybe kind of give us an idea, maybe a mental picture. A visionary leader. We actually like to talk about a visionary achiever, because visionary, during this time, we are hearing all kinds of ideas, and they are tickling us, with all kinds of possibilities. But then the vision needs to be realistic and attainable, because, is the leader capable of delivering on that vision? And one way to check that is to check what has the leader been able to do in the past, because let me use an example. There are many people who have resigned from being, say, a principal of a school to go and try to be an MCA because, of course, the usual issues many times is, of course, about money. Now, if the principals was, the school was always achieving a mean grade of C or D or E, what do you expect of the ward? Is it likely to be an A ward? Very unlikely. The leader is not capable of doing that, no matter how much promise he gives. because August 9 will not change the leader suddenly. If they have not been able to achieve anything in the past, nothing miraculous will happen. How was the constituency of this person if they were an MP who wants to become a governor or become a president? Because as was the constituency, so is to become the county or the nation. So the vision part needs to also have the question of the ability to achieve that vision, competence, capacity to be able to do that. So not only character, not only that the leader is able to work with others, they are collaborative, but also that they have the competence to do that. And then fourthly is inclusiveness. This is huge for us as a country. One of the fault lines of any election, and it's already, you can see it happening even this election, is of course tribe or region, whatever we call them, or blocks, the voting blocks. And the whole idea is that we come into this so that it's for our people. What is it in it for us, rather than for the nation? So a good leader will be able to acknowledge, of course, those interests, but at the same time be able to help people get to the place whereby they see the bigger picture. So it needs to be a leader who is able to bring peace, conciliation, or reconciliation or conciliation between communities, so that we are one country moving together. We need every Kenyan on board. We need every person feeling that they have a share of the cake in an equitable manner. That's an important consideration. And maybe again, as I go through this, again, you can both check yourself, maybe check the leaders that you have, or thinking about voting for in these regards. Finally, is a question of being a protector of human dignity and family values. Why is this important? Let me start with the family values. Of course, we talked about family being the smallest unit of society. If the leader cannot take care of their own family, they have no business actually being in leadership. And we know that that is true in the context of the Bible. It talks about that for those of us who read the good book, in terms of that if you cannot lead your own family, what business do you have with God's household? We could equally say, if you cannot lead a single family, what business do we have to trust you with a whole nation? And as you treat your family, it is likely to be the same principle again that you use in treating the nation. I don't believe any leader is going to, if they don't treat their own spouse and children well, it is unlikely that they will do the same, genuinely for other spouses, for other wives and husbands of other people, in terms of other adults or children for that matter. How we treat the family. So how is the leader in his family connections? The Bible shows there's a connection between how one lives at the family level and the society. I mean, again, to use the example of the US, it's not perfect, but they are very good at scrutinizing, the leader at the family level, because they know that the values you carry are best demonstrated at the family. At the family level, we usually don't have any, we don't have any reason for pretense. We really are who we are. And it's important to be able to, a person who values family and who is willing to protect the family unit. Of course, there are all kinds of, issues today coming alongside. Why the big money even in our election, you can be sure is from people who are propagating anti-family values. There's money that's out there for, proposing of being proponents of the gay agenda or abortion or other things that don't quite align with family values. So we need a protector of family values and human dignity. And finally, the human dignity part, it is caring for the least among us. The difference between Kenya and say Europe for that matter is not necessarily that there are no poor people in Europe. There are poor people in Europe, just like there are poor people here. But when we talk about poverty there versus poverty here, is that those so-called poor people often have most of the basics, apart from maybe you find homeless people everywhere. But the other people may be rated to be the poor of the society, have got basics of shelter, food, clothing, and so on. Unfortunately, that's not the case here. There are people struggling just to make it, hand to mouth on a day-to-day basis. The basics, of social infrastructure are not in place. Is the leader or leaders or the leadership committed to uplifting the poorest among us to the next level? So sorry, I've taken a bit of time, I think, but I hope this has helped to elaborate the blamelessness, empowering, visionary, inclusiveness, and a protector of family values and human dignity. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tim. I think now we are all clear about the values. Gerald, being the convener of the governance committee of KCPF, kindly explain how the BVIP tool is relevant in relation to the Constitution.
Thank you, Daktari. Dr. Tim has done a wonderful and thorough job in describing how the values were arrived at. And obviously, they were more than 5 and had to be narrowed down to the number of 5. Now, how is the BVIP connected into now the other areas of our governance? The tool in itself has been able to be correlated with the values that we aspire for in the national anthem. And as the slide before us is indicative, you can actually see that when we talk about being blameless, we look at the national anthem and we go to the first verse, and the way we sing our national anthem in itself reminds us of who we are answerable to, which Tim has done a very good job to say, if you're the president, if you're the CEO of a company, if you're the bishop of a church, if you're a leader in any place, the fact that you have been elevated to the top, who else do you become accountable to? And the moment you have God in your life, and the moment you know that there is a higher being that you must be answerable to, then that leader has a self-navigation. That leader has barriers to check whether they're doing the right thing. And that leader will often be one who consults and builds consensus. As you look at the same slide, you'll see in the area of empowering, it talks about service to the uttermost endeavor. And that is about being a servant leader as opposed to being a boss. And those now, the other part that you will look at is the idea of having a vision. And in this particular one, if you look at it, it talks about plenty being found within our borders. And indeed, we are all blessed. This country is abundantly blessed. And I can hear from Dr. Tim when he's referring us to 1963, that Kenya and Ghana and a few African countries were at par with Singapore and South Korea and the Mauritian countries. It is a sad piece of affair for us to have regressed to a point where we have become a food basket that is borrowing, that is seeking for food outside the nation. So when we speak about a vision, it's a vision that looks at our economics, it's a vision that looks at our well-being, our security, and progress and development. Inclusiveness, I cannot overstate it. It's purely just working with people around you and seeing that each person that is before you is created in the image of God. And the moment we do that, we will not have a problem of discrimination, nor a problem of prejudice, nor a problem of working with your neighbor. And finally, the protector of human dignity and family is where we are talking about justice being our shield and defender, and being able to defend the family in all aspects. You as the leader of that family, you as the provider, you as the priest, you as the prophet who should prophesy over good things of your family. And since family is the basic foundation, it is the one that then leads to the good church and the good society that we are aspiring to. So BVIP looks at, has borrowed from the national anthem. It has also looked at the preamble of what we call the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And the summary of all that is that the sovereignty lies with you and I here. We no longer beg to be assisted. We no longer go serikali saidia. We should be actually holding serikali to accountability and asking them why they have not done what they are meant to do. And should they fail, there is a way to exit serikali yetu that is not able to meet the demands of what is stated in our constitution. Then the national values are clearly stipulated. And this is where we have failed consistently with a new constitution. We know chapter 6 is a very wonderful tool to help us to identify those who are not suitable for positions of power or politics or influence within our country. And yet we overlook those particular articles and fail to implement them. And therefore, BVIP is asking you, please look at chapter 6, look at article 10, look at the values that have been instituted even in the Vision 2030, and be able to determine the kind of leadership that you want to see in this country. I will leave it there, Daktari, so that we may have an opportunity of people probably asking us questions. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Now that we have engaged with the foundation of the BVIP tool, we'll go to the next level. Remember, I had asked you to get a piece of paper and a pen. Kindly prepare your piece of paper and pen because we are going into a practical session. And we'll show you what the tool would look like when it is being applied. In the next slide, we'll show you what the tool would look like when it is being applied. So this is what the tool would look like. BVIP kuwa muungwana. We would like you on your piece of paper to make seven rows and make 6 columns. On the first row, you write BVIP, the first column, write BVIP so that you have blameless, empowering, visionary, inclusive, and protector of family dignity, and a total down there. So this particular one also has some Swahili translation. Then the second column, you put your name. Then the other 4 columns, we have put for you as an example the names of the current presidential candidates. And just so that one is not biased, then you just write them in alphabetical order. So we chose the first name and put them in alphabetical order. You can choose the second name, but put them in alphabetical order so that there is no bias. Really, you just want to assess the people who are on the ballot. But remember, the second column is you. That is your name. Now, we'll leave this screen here and we'll ask Gerald to then give us the instructions on how we are going to apply the tool. Kindly, Gerald.
Thank you, Daktari. And as I do that, I would also just want to add that when they do this, that when they get back home, is to pick all the other positions, the MCA, the MNA, the Women Rep, the Senator, and the Governor, and repeat the same thing with all the candidates who have submitted themselves for those particular positions. Now, in order for you to be able to do the BVIP in a manner that will help you, this is what you do. You will have written your name in the first column so that you hold yourself accountable. You will have written the names of the candidates, and that has been done for you like it is in alphabetical order. The score ranges will be from 0 as the poorest score through to 5 being the best score. So you'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the best. 0 is absolutely, they carry nothing, have nothing, and they do not exhibit any form of leadership, and they would not even be put on any paper. Then 1 is they may be quite good at something, but still struggling. 2, they are learning to be there. And 3, it's at the middle where it's kind of fair. And 4, it's where you say they are good. And 5, they are excellent. Before you start, you who is with us today, and we ourselves who are also moving with you as the panelist and the moderator, you will first say a word of prayer and sincerely seek from your heart to look at yourself, retrospect, and be able to say to God to help you to be able to be sincere and honest, first in scoring yourself, and then ask God to give you the courage to be objective in when doing this. Now you will struggle because you may know a candidate. You may know a candidate's brother, sister. You may know a candidate did something, one or two good things for you at some point, or a member of a family, all by extension, or you may simply just like them without interrogating them because they present themselves as amiable and lovable. But here you're asking God to help you so that you are aware that you may be objective. The other instruction then is start by scoring yourself, then the rest of the candidates. Total the marks for each of the candidates, and the one with the highest score is the one you should be voting for during the coming 9th of August. It is the same formula that will be used to tally the ballot boxes by picking the one who has scored most. But unfortunately, majority of Kenyans would have not had the opportunity to go through BVIP. You have the opportunity, and when you go through this tool, you have the opportunity to influence others and share with others the tool so that you make the right choice. Back to you, Daktari.
Thank you very much, Gerald. So we are going into a practical session. Patients, if you are still with us, kindly put for us some music. We're just going to take a 2-minute break. Take this seriously, ladies and gentlemen, and don't score the presidential candidates just yet. We are just going to spend 2 minutes and you're going to score yourself. The part about blameless, a lot of people have been asking, even on the chat, is there really somebody who is not blameless? The truth is that no, all of us have some blame, all of us have fallen short of the glory of God. But on a score of 0 to 5, one should really be able to find themselves. So patience, if you put a little music for just 2 minutes, say a quick word, say a word of prayer, take this very seriously, and score yourself in the next 2 minutes. Be as honest as you can. Are you blameless? Are you empowering? Are you a visionary achiever? And let's see how that works. So patience. So I'm imagining now you are at Visionary Achiever. How do you score on inclusiveness? Do you respect family dignity? Do you respect the family? Do you protect the life of the unborn? Okay, patience, I think we are now good. We can now go back to the tool. And I would invite you to look at your score, total up your score. Remember, it is out of 15. Total up your score and reflect on it. Look at their places of weakness, their places for improvement. And the exercise should make all of us very humble as we go to score our leaders, whether MCA or presidential candidate. It should make us very humble to first understand that we also have elements of corruption amongst within us that we have to deal with. We have weaknesses, so that we are not looking for angels. We're just looking for the best possible candidate out of those who have offered themselves. Now, I would invite you to do a little reflection. When you go home and you fill out the rest of the form, I would like you to ask yourself to reflect on something. If you find that you have scored higher than your best candidate, why are you not on the ballot paper? If you find you score better than all the other candidates who are there, then the question to you is, why are you not on the ballot? Now, the second question that we would like you to reflect on is, if you are inclined towards leadership, whether it's national or local, then that you should consider offering yourself for other leadership positions in your area of influence, whether it is your association, professional association, whether it is in KCPF, whether it is in the CDF funds board, whether it is in the school board of the school near you. If you have scored a good score for yourself, then you say you are worthy of being in leadership, then consider offering yourself for the positions that are open. Even the school where you are, the Parents Teachers Association, the organizations in your church, offer yourself for leadership, because if you have scored well, then you're denying this country good leadership skills. It is also important that if you're interested in public leadership, that you consider offering yourself for leadership in the 2027 elections. And then the other challenge that we'd like to give you is, as Christians and as a body that is looking at involvement of Christians in elective leadership, if we could give you an assurance that you will not spend your family wealth in campaigns if you offer yourself for a leadership position in 2027, would you consider going into leadership? Because it is possible, and it is something we'll discuss at a later date. But if you have scored well and you are interested in national leadership, we are saying that we can offer you an opportunity to engage without you having to spend family wealth on campaigns. So take the challenge very seriously and start working towards your 2027 challenge by offering yourself for leadership position in various areas around you. And then finally, as Kenyans, as Christians, as you reflect on this tool, is it possible for us to make the BVIP a national culture? Is it possible for us to make this a national culture? Can we use the BVIP in every sphere of influence where we need to elect leaders and actually take them through a values meter that will probably give us the best candidate in any position that we have? And that would be then the last challenge. And from now, then we'll just open the floor for questions. And then our panelists will answer the questions. And from there, we'll close with the panelists giving their last comments. So let me see whether we have any questions. So the first one I have here is not a question, really. It is a reflection. When we opened, I asked people to tell us what their expectations are. A participant is saying he expects to understand how to know who is real and who is not among our leaders, separating the truth from falsehood. I hope if you have understood the tool, you understand that it is you who will have to do that work. Let me stop sharing this screen. Okay, so the other question I have on the chat, let me see. So several questions here. Does the church overrate its influence in Kenyan society? Tim or Gerald, who would like to take that one? Does the church overrate its influence in Kenyan society?
In some ways, yes. And then I'll come to the no part. The no yes part is because not many of us are well discipled. I think that's a challenge that we have to face as a church. And I am happy that Provost is putting this out. I hope that he and other church leaders will guide us on this. How can we disciple people, prepare them, not just for leadership in politics, even like you said, in the school setup, in the communities, in the families as well. You know, we are seeing currently, like in some parts of the country, a resurgence of traditional culture that is almost obliterating in a short time, you know, what we've built for a long time as a Christian culture. So yes, I think there's the challenge of discipleship and preparing people to be true followers of Jesus in every sense, in business, in whatever field they are in. As we do that, I believe then we'll see more influence. So currently, yes, our 80% number may not necessarily reflect true followers of Jesus, but that, you know, I believe can be dealt with from that perspective. However, on the other hand, the church is urgently and seriously needed to help fix our society. In my own mind, whereas we've made progress in terms of hardware, everywhere you go, you see the infrastructure that has come up. That one is going on. So no question about that. We can agree that there has been growth in infrastructure and other things that are helpful for society to be able to thrive. But our software is badly damaged, is badly broken, our value system. You know, the average child, you know, in primary school, you know, in class 1 or 2, begins to believe that they can't get ahead unless they steal, they cheat, they do things the wrong way. Who is better placed than the church to really be able to help us fix that? Because that is consistent, like Gerard said earlier, with God's tenets, you know, the 10 Commandments or whatever other framework. To help our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Gerald, does the church in Kenya offer a different set of integrity moral standards? Integrity stroke moral standards.
Dakari, just before I jump to that question, I just wanted to add to where Tim has commented on. And that question is quite, is a double-edged sword. Is the church overrated in terms of its influence? In my view, the church is very powerful and very influential. What may have happened is the definition of the church that has changed. And Tim has taken us through the issue of discipleship. If you look at the best schools, the church has contributed enormously. If you look at the best hospitals that care, that offer care, real care, it's been the church. If you look at also producing honest, integral people with integrity, it's been the church. The question then becomes not even the church overrating itself, or whether the church has lost that rastra of being the beacon, the salt, and the light. And that is where our challenges are coming in. And Tim has also tied it in very well by stating the issue of software. Now, many of us are Christians in the marketplace. a vast ocean of character development that seems to be slowly being eaten away because we are becoming more and more secular. And what we consider the church, the basic unit, which starts at the family, is under threat. And therefore, if we were able to reverse that, the church is not overrated. It is a serious influencer. However, there is a caveat that has been thrown on our way. Now, back to the question, Dr. Ali, if you may ask it again so that I be totally clear.
Does the church in Kenya offer a different set of integrity stroke moral standards? I think the question here is the church also challenged with issues of integrity and moral standards?
Thank you. The church is and is supposed to be and is meant to be the beacon and the light and the salt and the highest standard of integrity. Now, who is the church? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Who is the church? The church is where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. Who are these 2 or 3? And are they gathering in his name? Now, the level and the standards have never changed. But we who are defining the church, we who are members of the church, have slowly changed the parameters of what our moral standards are. And indeed, we must concede that even we in the church have been challenged, even we in the church have failed, and even we in the church need repentance. So there is no separate moral standards, and there is no lower standards of integrity. It is we who are meant to be discipled upwards, mentored upwards towards those standards. God remains the same, God has been the same, and God continues to be the same.
Thank you very much. There was another question of, is Kenya a Christian nation? And I think that one Tim tackled. There are those who are Christian by name. There are those who are Christian by practice. But I feel it is important that we start somewhere. All we need is a few people who are willing to fight for change, and we can change the country. The other question is to be practical. Using the 5 values, who among the 4 presidential candidates is morally upright? Can we identify one and rally behind them? I hear church leaders advising electorate that they should choose a lesser evil. I think this question has been answered in that each one of us has homework to go and do. Each one of us has work to go and do. When I did this exercise, I was quite surprised myself because I found that the person who I thought I was going to vote for actually failed when you look at this. And the beauty of having 5 values is that even where the candidates who may be there, some of them may fail miserably in the integrity issue, you may still find that there will be a differential when it comes to the issues of empowering. When you look at the different candidates, you may find one is more empowering than the other. When you look at the visionary aspect, you might find it is not the same in both candidates. And that's why there is a scoring system, 1 out of 5, and then total. And you would be able to come up with. So it is not for us to tell any one of you who your presidential candidate is. And ideally, if you use the tool, you might be very surprised who you end up with. It is the tool that should guide you. If you do a good job, do your homework, know who it is that you are voting for. Those ones who you don't know, and you cannot give them a score, just leave it at 0 because you don't know, and then total your marks. Now, the last time the church tried to tell us who to vote for or which political party to vote for, it split the people into 2. Because within the church, we have people who support, who are Christians, who support one or the other of the political outfits that are already present. But if we left it to Christians with a clean conscience to go and do their choice, then cumulatively we shall let God then choose the final person. So those are the questions I have. We have somebody from Cameroon who is asking for the slides, but I don't see any other question. Maybe we could allow the candidates who are shy to write, the participants, if you would wish to ask a question, I'll allow you to put on your mic and then to ask the question. We have just under 10 minutes. We are doing very well. We have enough time to answer questions. So if you're not ready to type a question, put on your mic and ask. If Patience, you can see the Facebook page, you can tell us whether there are any questions there and read them out for us. Patience, are there any questions posted on Facebook?
Dr. Not yet. We don't have a question on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a hand from Moses.
Moses, kindly ask your question.
Yes, thank you. My name is Moses Mukira, and I'm the Chair Governance Committee at Elnet. And this presentation, I've seen it several times, but it is always new to me. I always learn something else in subsequent presentations. So thank you to the panelists and the moderator. Now my question is regarding how you plan to get this out. You have mentioned that in 2027 there might be some funds available to candidates so that they don't have to dip into their family savings. I don't know, is the church ready to take this tool out there in the few days that are remaining to the elections? Because it is very important, especially the part on gauging how oneself scores, because that really is the beginning. Are we ready to take this tool out there in the few remaining days before the elections? Thank
you. Gerald, you want to address that?
Yes, I can take part of it, and I know the good Daktari will also be able to say something, and as would do yourself, Dr. Ngare. Moses, thank you very much. Indeed, I want to acknowledge that you have also worked with us. The BVIP, indeed, we have very few days left, but in terms of the immediate, the BVIP tool becomes a tool that you can apply immediately, and immediately we mean as starting now. So in terms of practical application, BVIP can be applied as soon as today and as soon as now. That's one aspect. In as far as 2027 is concerned, we have realized the mistakes we have made previously. We have waited for 2026, or in this case, we waited for 2022, beginning January. What we are telling the body of Christ, what we are telling even the Christians in the marketplace, and even others who may not necessarily be Christians, but will find this tool to be very practical and appropriate, is that our journey begins immediately you cast your vote on the 9th. In addition to these, there are other tools now that we have been working on that will accompany the BVIP. And I will allow Dr. Ngare to interject, and also Dr. Tim, in terms of other tools that we have put in place, so that in this particular work, we are now going to work on the software. The hardware is there, The software is what we must invest in. And to do that, we will rely on everyone who is on board here. We will rely on the partnerships within the church. We will rely on the civil society. We will rely also working with the private sector, because they are Christians who are of high integrity that work in those spaces. So that's what I can say for now. Let me allow my colleagues also to interject with more solutions.
Thank you. I think let's address the immediate, and I would just add a little bit that one of the things we can do with this tool is to actually, bring, if we can, and it's not too late, the candidates are hungry for votes. Just last Sunday, we had the MCAs in my local area where I live in Nairobi, invited them to our estate. We have a small space where we can gather. And they came, and we were able to interact with them around the place of values. We had prepared ourselves, of course, to ask questions, to get to know them more deeply. I've left that meeting with a clarity of who is the best candidate among them, from my perspective, to be able to vote for. So that's one way that we can use these values, even in the few days left. Another one could be at the level of the church, and some of us are able to maybe utilize that. Again, because of the numbers, and politics is about numbers, the church could invite the candidates. And just again, for the people to interact with them, and maybe ahead of time share with the membership of the church about these values, so that people, as they ask questions, it's not just about the party and so on, it's about the values of these individuals. And again, with both situations, whether individuals, a small group, or a church, one of the most beautiful outcomes from, again, my experience in 2017, because we had done the same thing, is that now you're able to engage the candidates during their tenure of office in terms of holding them to account. One of the big challenges you have in our country is that, of course, when people get into office, now they become our waheshimiwa, nobody holds them to account, and they are left to their own devices, and now they have money and power and influence. That's what destroys them, destroys the country. But you will not be able to do that unless you engage with them before. They will not consider you relevant. They will wonder, why are you coming later to ask for me to be accountable to you when you never quite engage with me at this level? So I think it's important that we engage as far as we can. Of course, the days are a few years, but as far as we can, do what we can at whatever level we can, and so on. I think the question of 2027 needs a bit more time. I'm sure that maybe Dr. Gary can make a comment about it, but of course, it's a longer question, but it's a good one to begin to talk about. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Just a quick clarification. We did not say we are going to raise money for people who want to go into the election. What we said is that if we were able to organize it such that your family did not need to spend any of its money. And there are many ways of doing that. And one of them is just network campaigns, where it is word of mouth from one person to the other. We start from the grassroots at the small Christian communities and fellowships, and we build it up like that through different denominations. It is something we are going to come back to you with in future, but it is possible to have a selection and election criteria for candidates that does not require major funds for campaigns. So the other thing that, the other question that is here is, if I may ask, can we use the same tool to select church leaders? Yes, you can, not the pastors, because that is not our business. But if you have lay people who are going to help work with your pastor, the leaders of the men's fellowship, the women fellowship, those kind of organizations that are lay-led, this tool is a very powerful tool that can be used to help you to choose the best candidate who would represent the interests of the church. Now, the other one is saying that this is a great initiative. Kindly share the BVIP write-up with definitions of the categories of the tool so I can share it with others. That is very good, Rachel. We are very grateful. That is the kind of spirit that we need. I was using the BVIP in my July sermon. It's in the Cathedral website. Oh, thank you very much, Canon. So KCPF will also put it up on its website so that it can be easily addressed. The other comment is from Gerald. Langata Speaks. They've been having meetings with the MCAs and MPs. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the MP and the MCA are the people who we really need to connect with. Those are the people who will pass laws. Those are the people who will pass budgets. They're actually more important to us at the grassroots than the governor and the president. It's very important you know your MCAs. Now, we have two candidates that stand out for me in the previous government. We had one who was a woman rep, campaigned through churches, talked about how she was born again and she's a Christian. And the other one also went through churches, was campaigning for different positions, now running for governor. And they were actually involved in pushing for laws to legalize abortion in this country. And that's why this tool is critical, that we start with blamelessness, we go to empowering, whether there is a visionary person, whether they're inclusive, but also whether they are protectors of family values and the protectors of life. So it's very important that we score on all those and give the highest candidate the benefit of doubt. Canon, I had seen your hand up. Kindly ask your question or give your comment.
Yes, I don't. Am I visible? Audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I was actually typing. There's somebody there who asked whether we can use this tool in the church. As a practicing minister of the gospel, I have seen the difficulty we have even applying this tool even in the church itself. And that's why I had made the comment in my reflection. Do we sometimes overrate ourselves? When such a tool cannot be used in the church, how do we expect it to be used in the general society? If you look at the way politicians now take the church, use the church, it tells you that it's a very serious problem of the church. If you look at the level of compromise, and this one is practical, I can give you even examples of how many of our clergy have been compromised. Recently, you saw others anointing this, others anointing another. Another political leader is dressed in priestly robes. It tells you about the state of the church. And to me, my submission is, if this cannot be used in the church, even for the bishops and pastors and the general Christian fraternity, I have difficulty on how I can influence the society to use it. So it's not a question, it's a comment that there is a lot of work needed in the church. My submission.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I could make a comment.
Okay.
A very brief one, just to thank the provost for that challenge. And just to affirm that many of these actually, as maybe you heard even when I was trying to kind of elaborate them, we drew them actually out of leadership qualities, for church leadership positions. So I don't think there should be a problem necessarily. It wasn't, of course, with the elaboration that we have in terms of the national values and so on, and looks at the nation. But like Provost said, blamelessness, being empowering, all those qualities should really be true of first in the church, and then of course in society. So I think, so with that understanding, and of course with the scriptural underpinnings, we should be able to do that. Thank you.
Yes, and remember we started by saying that in Kenya we are the sovereign. After the 2010 constitution, people then must engage, and one of the best ways to engage to make a government of the people is to make sure that we choose those who are most morally upright amongst us to go into the positions of leadership. So it is true that we would start somewhere. It is true that we would not be starting from a perfect place. And maybe just to conclude is to tell you this, the BVIP tool, we would like people to get used to it and to make it a national culture. So this is just an introduction. It is the beginning. It is towards an election where people have already been nominated. They already appeared in the ballot. So we are not influencing the nomination process, which would be the ideal. But as we build towards 2027, then there is a tool that we are developing that is called a nomination tool, because we feel that the right place for us to start looking at leadership is at the family level. So the nomination tool would require that the first proposer of the candidate would have to be a member of the immediate family. So the spouse, an older child, a brother or a father or a mother. If your family does not trust you with leadership, then you shouldn't come to bother the rest of the country. Then the second proposer would be somebody who knows you well, who is not your family member. And we are thinking that level of scrutiny would be at the fellowship levels, the Bible study groups, the cells, the small Christian communities. We call them different names in different denominations. But those would do the second level of screening. And then the pastor of the church where you attend would then sign the document for you. And that would complete the nomination form before you even come into the elections for the BVIP to be applied. So the BVIP will be applied at the grassroots level, at the small Christian community level, by people who know you and know you very well. So that thereafter, everybody else who goes up the ladder to the next level of screening will at least have qualified in as far as their moral values is concerned. So take heart, use this tool, practice with it. Remember to first give yourself a score, and then thereafter go and apply it. Take the trouble to know your MCA candidates, take the trouble to know your MP candidates, and kindly just do this, use the tool, and let us start being objective. We may be just a small seed that has been planted. We may not have a very big effect on this election, but it is important that we try. Now I'm seeing two names, two hands that are up. I will allow those people to ask their questions or give their comments. Then immediately after that, we'll invite the panelists to give their closing remarks, and we shall call it a day. So Pastor David Kiniti.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Daktari. Indeed, this is a very enlightening conversation. I am particularly very delighted at the BVIP tool. But I also want to agree with Canon, Reverend Wainaina, that there is much that we need to do at the church level. I'm studying the book of Daniel, and Daniel served about 4 kings, and none of them would fit in this tool. They were all eaten, but he was able to influence the kingdom, all those kingdoms, in a great way. As we think about influencing at the elections level, I think as a church, we also need to stop behaving like politicians, in the sense that we come to influence at, we show up during election like the politicians would. I think we need to come up with a framework where throughout the church is engaging in developing a leadership that can influence the church, can influence the nation at whatever level throughout, so that our focus is not like the politicians. So we are now competing for space. When they were quiet doing their own things, we were also quiet doing our own things. Now that they are making noise, and they make noise louder than we can, you know, we are a bit late. So I'm hoping that as we move into the future, can we as a church pick up this tool and make sure that it is influencing, and we are growing a leadership that influences at every level of society. And thereby we are able to, you know, we are talking of state capture. We are able to capture the society in terms of good governance, good leadership, and more so in terms of righteousness, way beyond an election period. Thank you. Just my comment.
Thank you very much, Pastor Kiniti. There is a gentleman, ACFCH, I think is a mobile something. You have your hand up. Kindly ask your question, and that will be the last question.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I am Alfred Sembi from CAH, that is Christian Association of Homes in Cameroon. I think I'm the only one in the French country. So you will just excuse my the mistakes that I will make in English. Okay, thank you very much. I've listened to this practical lesson that we had, and thank you, Doctor. And what I want to ask is, for us, for example, in Cameroon, in 3 years, we will have the presidential elections and other elections. So I think it is now that we need to implement this type of tools in Cameroon are starting, because we need to change the whole Africa, starting with Kenya today. If this tool is applied in the whole Africa, I think things will change. Then starting with Kenya and having it in Cameroon through me, because in my association, we can start doing it, as Doctor says, we need to start with the small Christian community. If we start it today, in 3 years, I think that we'll reach a certain level that maybe the Africa will be proud that things are changing in the way of governing the countries and the peoples. And as Pastor also says, we need to start it in church. So how can we go in through when we know that sometime, even in our churches, we are reluctant to accept this type of open document that will help managing not only the country, but also our day-to-day life in our various society, because the tool is well organized, that the blameless, the empowering, the visionary. So how can we master these tools or use this tool, for example, in Cameroon? How can we have it so that next time we can even call you people to come and help us implement and well understanding these tools that can help the whole country and the whole Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Alfred, we'll keep in touch. That is extremely exciting. If you have 3 years before your elections, it is true there is a lot that can be done. We'll take your email address. I saw you posted it, and we'll get in touch with you and see whether we can then assist you to use the tool going forward. Now, I would call on our guests to kindly give us their closing remarks so that we don't keep people here beyond the time we had promised. Kindly, Dr. Tim.
Thank you very much, Daktari. Maybe just 2 or maybe maximum 3 comments. First is to encourage us and that there is hope. As I mentioned, since the month of May, I felt like there was unusual interest this year compared to 2017, when I also engaged quite a bit with a number of churches, but this year it's been a lot more. So I sense that growing desire, in terms of churches and Kenyans of goodwill to engage in the process. So for me, that is hope. There is hope that as more people engage, there'll be less room for, for those others who want to do mischief and so on. But secondly, begin where you are, begin small. I was privileged to be part of LNet and the other groups that initially did the work back in 2011, 2012, and to see where we are today. Just the uptake, the interest in the various churches, just I'm thankful to God. So I would encourage each one of us, begin with your immediate community where you are, like we're encouraged at the family level, at the immediate surroundings, in your workplace. There are many opportunities for governance, because bigger than politics is good governance. And if there's only one good person, one of the negotiations that I've been encouraging churches to do when the politicians come is not to ask for anything for ourselves. I think that's a mistake we make, like Canon mentioned. But if the church said, this church has many good professionals who are people of integrity, would you commit that if you get into office, you'll put at least one of them into your CDF committee, into your, say, bursary committee, and so on? And that person is there not for themselves, will allow
have we lost Tim?
I believe that can begin to cause a change. Bribery and CDF committee, and so of course it's a risk, and so on.
Gerald?
Yes, we seem to have lost Tim, but I can take the opportunity to make the closing remarks. First, I would want to start by saying the church is a platform of social change.
Sorry, I think Zoom was telling me my time is up, so I think I'll just stop here. Sorry about the disconnection I have.
Okay. Tim, are you still there? Tim? Daktari?
Sorry, it looks like.
I think he's having network challenges.
Okay. Do I come in, Daktari, Patience?
Please give your remark.
Okay. All right, thank you. I started by stating that the church is a powerful platform of social change and development. My appeal to everyone who is listening, my appeal to those you'll speak to, my appeal to those you'll share with today's enlightenment is that they become engaged and do not remain passive. The other is that the BVIP tool is a wonderful tool. The more you use it, the better it gets in giving you revelations as to how you can select and choose a leader. And so I am urging all of us again to use it, not only with the politicians, use it within family setting, use it even within your business area, and you will see wonderful changes coming from this tool. You are the solution. You who is seated with us are the solution. You have been programmed to expect that leadership is coming from elsewhere. But God has already ordained and given you a privileged position to be a leader within the family setting. Regardless of what position you are in that particular family, you are already a leader in making. The truth is that leadership is formed at the family unit. I want to pose a question for you as you go. I have asked this question to many people in several settings. Without the politicians that you know of, do you know of a family? Do you know of individuals within your locale that have done things not to be praised, that regardless of whether you acknowledge them or not, they continue to do these wonderful things? And most often you'll hear people respond, yes. In the rural area, they'll even give you the names of those families and say, the family of so-and-so. The question has always been for me to them and to you, why have you not gone to those families, those individuals, and proposed them for leadership into the political space? They have not taken, they come to give. How much more would they do when you have given them resources that are already spared for them to use? And finally, as KCPF, under the governance committee, we do have a program called Utumishi Bora Award. The Utumishi Bora Award is an award that goes to the ordinary citizen, an ordinary person who has done extraordinary things that are godly, and therefore we acknowledge them, recognize them, and award them. Kindly, when you receive that link that says you can nominate somebody, first start with yourself. If you have the confidence and done the BVIP tool, do not shy away from the fact that you can nominate yourself. Secondly, nominate those people that we know, and yet we do not highlight them in many places, so that we may be able to work with them and we may be able to show and role model excellent servant leadership. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very, very much. To our participants, thank you very much for bearing with us. I'm really sorry we have overshot by about 20 minutes. I'll bring this webinar to a close with a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening. We thank you for the opportunity to have this discussion. We thank you for the enlightenment you have given us. We thank you for the hope you have provided us. We ask that you touch each and every person who participated in this actively or by watching, to take their role seriously as a candidate, as a citizen of this country, to understand that it is our business to put in leaders of high moral values, leaders who will be able to serve us and to serve us to the best of their ability, and to bring this country to the level of development that it should come for our benefit and for the glory of your name. We ask that you go home with us, you lead us home safely, and that you will continue to guide us even as we go to the elections. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Dr.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Jehovah dinami pompo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You are the mighty God, the great I am. Hallelujah. Hey, you are the mighty God. Hey, my God. Hallelujah.
Patience and the team and Gerald kindly remain behind just for a brief debrief.
Sing hallelujah. Sing hallelujah. That's Whenever I call your name, you make a way. Your name is a strong tower. Jesus, waymaker. Hey, hey. Jesus, whenever I call, you make a way. In the wilderness, your name is the waymaker. Hey, game change, game change. Turn around, turn around, turn around. Hey, whenever, when I call your name, make a way. Your name is a game changer. Jesus. Strong tower. The name of the Lord is a strong tower.
Dr. Wahome, you can just confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. I think there are people who joined and went away. I'm just removing them so that we can have our meeting. I think they may have joined and left. So now I have Patience. So it's just the team now, right?
Yeah, yes, this is us.
Good. So just a quick debrief. We can start with team.
Oh,
Okay,
just
that's
a
okay.
moment, just a
That's all
moment,
right.
just a moment. Kindly, I stopped being live on Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm no longer live now.
you